What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we got some news coming out from Alexander Volkanovski's camp, and it seems like he is set on waiting for a Max Holloway or Ilia Topuria rematch. Either way this goes, as we know, Volk lost the belt earlier in February to Ilia at UFC 298, and it seems like he hasn't had any options as of the past few months because we have not heard any fight news from him besides just speculation. I came on here a few days ago and said maybe we see him versus Dustin Poirier. I thought that would be a fantastic fight for both guys, but it seems like he's content on waiting. But the thing is with this, I mean, as we know, either way, this is going to be a rematch. Looking at this fight, Topuria versus Holloway, UFC 308, by the way, also. I don't think this has been talked about enough how fantastic this card is from top to bottom. I mean, Ilia, Cyril Gane coming back versus Volkov, Whitaker versus Khamzat, Magomed versus Rakic, Dan Ige is coming back. We'll see him versus Murphy, Jeff Neal versus Dos Anjos. I mean, look at Bruno Ferreira down here too. Obviously, we're going to get some guys from the UAE as well. I'm sure they're probably going to announce, how many fights do we have on here? We have like about 10. I'm sure they're probably going to announce like one or two more. Maybe not too exciting, but when was the last time that there's only one championship fight, but when was the last time that we saw a championship fight, another fight within the top three? I mean, whoever wins this is going to be probably the next challenger for the belt after Sean Strickland. Both of these guys, Khamzat at 12, but he could win this fight. Two guys in the top 5 as well. Another ranked fight, another double ranked fight. I mean, this is going to be a fantastic card. But back to this fight. Topuria versus Holloway. Max Holloway moving back down to his natural weight class after that Justin Gaethje BMF fight at 300, which another fantastic fight. It looks like Holloway is going for all the fight of the year candidates. He might have 2 by the end of this year. So if we look at this right now, DraftKings odds minus 205 for Topuria. He's the pretty big favorite for right now. Not massive though, but I'm sure that's going to change because there's going to be a lot of money dumped in on Holloway. Holloway's a big fan favorite, one of the biggest fan favorites in the UFC, especially right now after 300. So I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of movement there. Who knows? Maybe he'll even be, I don't know if he'll be the favorite by then. I don't know if there'll be enough money to move it, but definitely be a lot closer. So I would say if you guys are betting on Ilia, wait. Hold out to bet on Ilia until these odds change, because I'm sure they are going to. I don't think they're going to swing in his favor either. So Volk, the number 1 contender right now, obviously. After that, who else would we see? Do I really think we're going to see anyone outside of Volkanovski or Brian Ortega go out there and get a title fight? Probably not. I'm sure they're going to have to wait for some of these other guys. I don't think Rodriguez. I don't think Arnold Allen. I don't think Evlov's going to get one next. I think outside of this, all these guys are kind of one fight away. Obviously, this Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez fight is massive because Diego Lopez wins this fight. He could get the next title shot pretty easily. I think he's still, if he beats Ortega, obviously that's a massive victory, but he might be one fight away from the title, in my opinion, after that. Even though that's probably the best win that you could get right now, not beating the champion if Volk's not going to fight. I don't think they're going to have Diego Lopez versus Volk, but who knows? I mean, there's a lot of different ways we could go with this right now. Let's say Ilia Topuria retains. We see Volkanovski versus Topuria again. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I'm going to keep it 1,000%. I see that fight going pretty similarly to the first time. I know Volk came in, obviously coming off the KO before that as well, defending the belt here against Ilia, gets knocked out in the second round. Does he get knocked out in the second round again? Does it go a little longer? Maybe. I think he does get knocked out again though. I don't know. Volk versus Ilia, that fight itself, I just think that Ilia, it has Volk's number. And going into that fight, I bet on Ilia. I actually bet on him by knockout. I was pretty convinced he was going to go in there. And Volk is he's on this little bit of a downward spiral right now, obviously, as we know. Losing the past 2 fights, 3 out of the last 4, right? Because Rodriguez was in between there. So it's really tough right now. If Ilya wins this fight, do we see him against Volkanovski right away? I guess Volk wants to do that. I don't know if we're going to see that, though. Because let's say Diego Lopez beats Brian Ortega. Let's just do a hypothetical right here. Why don't we just have Volk versus Diego Lopez? Is that too crazy to throw out there of an idea? I feel like that's a good fight to see. If not, we'll just have Brian Ortega versus Volk. There we go. We can have Brian Ortega versus Volkanovski. And winner goes out there, and in the rematch, they haven't fought since 2021, so obviously a lot has changed since then. Volk winning that fight by decision, which has happened for a lot of his fights, obviously. But we can get the rematch there. Brian Ortega maybe has reinvented himself recently. Could potentially be getting out of the gatekeeper allegations if he can go out here. If he wins against Diego Lopez, does that make him the #1 contender? I would say so. It's a tough fight. Diego Lopez at 12. I mean, the Brian Ortega Diego Lopez fight it's exactly like Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat. There's a guy at 3, there's a guy at 12. The guy at 3 kind of has been the not holding up the division, but he's been up there kind of bouncing back and forth within that top 5. But the guy at 12, Khamzat and Diego Lopez, they go out there and beat a top 3 guy, which I think both of them have a great chance to do. They're within the top 3. They're new. They're young. They're going to go out there and get a title fight. It's going to be exciting. I'm not saying Brian Ortega versus Ilia Topuria is not exciting, but I don't know. I am just not a huge fan of Brian Ortega myself. I wouldn't say that I'm a Brian Ortega hater, but when we're seeing Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega, Diego Lopez, it just seems like it's his time. I don't want this to be a rant about how Diego Lopez, it's his time to go out there. Ilya is very good. So, do I want to see Ilya versus Volk again? No. I think it's going to go pretty similarly to how it went the first time. I don't even have to get into Max Holloway versus Volk. Or do we want to see that for a 4th time? 2 fan favorites. I know it's probably going to sell well because obviously both of these guys pretty well known. I'm sure the casual UFC fan would like to see this fight if they haven't seen any of the other ones. If you just started watching within the past few years or within the past year, even since 300, Holloway's gained a lot of fans as well. So both of these guys with name value. Do I want to see them fight for a 4th time? No. Because in the end, what's going to happen? Volk goes out there and maybe he goes out there and could win against Holloway for the 4th time. And then what? He wins the belt. I wouldn't say he's holding up the division again, but then Topuria goes back up in the next fight and then I think beats Volk. Max Holloway beats Volk. What happens? Then he's 1-3 against him. Does that really help him? Obviously, it helps him retain the belt. Maybe it looks a little better saying that he didn't lose to him 4 times. Oh, I got it done the 4th time. No, I don't know. Volkanovski versus the winner of this doesn't get me too excited. I want to see him against Dustin Poirier. If you are going to give him someone else too, let's say throw him against the winner of Lopez versus Ortega, and the winner of that gets the next title shot. So at least Volk isn't sitting around doing nothing for a while. So that's my opinion on this. I don't think Volk should get an immediate rematch. Does he deserve it? Yes. I mean, obviously he's done enough where he does deserve it. But from a business standpoint, him versus Topuria 2, gonna go the same way it happened the first time. He's getting knocked out within 4 rounds. I'll give him 4 rounds this time. Maybe he comes in with a little better cardio. Not that his cardio was bad last time, but clearly he wasn't at the top of his game. Ilya is also just very good. I don't want to be a glazer here too hard, but either way, I just think I think Volk should have to have at least one more fight before he goes up for the belt again, because either way, we're getting Max Holloway versus Volk 4. We're getting Ilya versus Volk 2 again. And I don't think we need to see that immediate rematch right away. Let's see him fight someone like Diego Lopez or a rematch against Brian Ortega. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you in the next one.